Good evening, and welcome to another segment of the New Black Leadership Coalition here live in the great new studio of Intellectual Radio. My name is Gregory Singh, the host and one of the co-founders of the New Black Leadership. I am forever thankful, blessed by the best, protected, and absolutely guided by that big force that gives me the tenacity, the courage, and more so the love to want to make a difference over these precious airwaves. The New Black Leadership Coalition is absolutely a coalition of individuals throughout the city from various organizations, various walks of life, various religion affiliations, etc. And we believe in coalition building, and we understand the importance and the wisdom of doing just that, coalition building. I am sitting here this evening, this beautiful, chilly evening here in Chicago, with extraordinary, my brother, my friend, mentor, big brother, the one and only that most people know him as a great attorney, Lew Meyers, but I know him as a preacher, a reverend. He's been coming off lately like a reverend over these airwaves, so his name has changed. But Brother Lew, a lot of wisdom that's coming from you. And before we get started, I got a just real brief commentary today because I really did not have one per se. But I just wanted to say this to just a couple of the cowards of the Black Congressional Caucus and a few others. I'm very disappointed in some of you all for being so beyond being a coward. I think you don't read and you don't listen because you need to know what anti means. Anti means Semitic means. You need to know that, and you need to know that people have their opinions and perspectives and they view and their history in their story. It don't mean that they hate. It don't mean that they don't like. It means that they have a perspective how things go in the world, and if you disagree, stop automatically saying that somebody have to be anti-Semitic, because as I look at it, most of the same folks that will change their words, change their whole perspectives are sometimes seen as you anti-Black, you anti-reparation, you anti-poor people, you anti-poverty. You look at it, and so I'm saying this to my brother, one of them. I'm really embarrassed to even call your name, and I'm ashamed of you.
No, don't call my name.
Don't call his name?
No, don't call.
Okay, I'm not going to call his name. But I'm really ashamed of you, brother. And I hope, in your late age, you'll get some courage. I hope you don't go, just like that all the way out. But I just wanted to say to that individual and to all of them, man, the community is really ashamed of you all. And it ain't about us against them. It's really about principles. Because I'll be the first to say that I respect people. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what nationality you are, ethnicity, etc., what you practice religiously, etc. It's really about exposing that gets in the way of progress. And if you're about changing the quality of life for people, and if you're about making life better for people, etc., then I support you. But if you just about greed and making money and you just want to be in power, then you sick. You have a real sickness. But anyway, brother Lew Meyers is here. Lew, the first question out the gate for you, bro, is when I heard one particular commercial. Matter of fact, the person that I was about to call their name, they're in the commercial with their little deep voice. But anyhow, why do we need, how could you put the word justice in the same sentence with changing the criminal justice system, reform? How do you reform that, how could you say this person, the justice, you want justice, but you need to change it? What can be changed about the criminal justice system that will make life better for the average person? Why does it always have to be changed? Who has it been serving since we need to always change it? You being a defense attorney.
Well, I'm going to come back to your commentary because I got some comments on that from my own perspective.
Yes, sir. I would love to hear them in the audience.
But you don't, in this day and age, you can't reform the criminal justice system, first of all, unless you understand what it is. Because if you understood what it is, and the root of everything in the universe always starts from a seed. And if you understand that the people that make policy, make decisions, make rules,
right,
make procedures, and define which way the system goes are the people who are in control of it. None of them are in the voting booths who are going out and electing politicians to go to Congress and to Springfield to make decisions. We don't have the criminal justice system. Now, this is sad. It's going to be very difficult for people to swallow for this coming from a lawyer. The people, who are affected by the criminal justice system, we don't have at this moment in our lives because we're not organized around a real agenda to change the system. You see, if you really wanted to change the system, first of all, there would have to be billions of dollars of investment. There would have to be a new narrative. There would have to be new ideas that are creative and that are constructive and that are new in terms of which way the system should be going. That's not going to happen, Brother Greg. That's not going to happen today. You can pray your way down to Springfield, or you can go to Washington, D.C., and you can beg for legislation, and you can ask that the system be changed. But the system at its root is not going to change. That would involve a radical redistribution of power in this country because money controls the system. Right now on the stock market, American prison stock is one of the highest and most valuable investments you can make. Why? Because the system is making money off of keeping us in prison, keeping us getting locked up, keeping us going to jail. So now you're going to say to people who are making almost $1 trillion over the last 10 years on keeping us in the juvenile system, keeping us in the prison industrial complex system, and keeping us in the state prisons. And it's basically us, right? Us meaning African Americans for the most part.
Us, black.
Those people are not going to, nor do they have any commitment in Springfield or in Washington, D.C. to make any substantial changes in the way the system works, because it goes against the money that finances them. And so when you come and say you want to pass a bill to be more humane and more sympathetic to people getting out of prison, or to give them more jobs so they won't what? Go to prison, or better education so they can navigate in the system. Those people are not about to vote in what is needed to make substantial, important, serious changes.
That's got to be deep to be an attorney to see that. That's why we love you, bro, because the humanitarian in you is one thing to know law. It's another thing to understand the root. you said the seed, but the root causes, because and it's really interesting that every particular case or situation, they go back in some cases and paint a picture of the individual upbringing or whatever is going on with them individually or as a community.
Because the whole narrative of the system is based on the wrong premise. Crime does not start at the event. Crime don't start at the bank robbery. Crime don't start when Joe shoots Mo. Crime starts long before that. And the American system of crime and criminal justice only deals with the event. I'm not concerned. I am concerned about the event, but how did the person who now is the actor in the event get from point A to point B that puts them in front of somebody with an AK-47? And what was his social history? What was it that he didn't have in life that the system did not provide him? What was he not provided for that in all of the trauma, in each one of these cases, right, Greg, there's a story. What led that person to the event that then leaves them into being incarcerated for the rest of their life? Our system does not recognize, we don't deal with cause. We deal with effect. Effect is what you do. But I'm concerned about cause. And until we develop a social narrative, we shouldn't lock anybody else up unless we understand how did they get where they were. What were the obstacles in life that they had to go through? Now, I'm not trying to put a right or wrong. Hey, some people, at the end of the day, but you need to understand that, because once the person gets into the system, the answer ain't to punish and to lock him or her up. The answer is to treat that person, because what got them vis-a-vis the cause to where they are now, it is either a psychiatric, psychological, or a social phenomenon, something happened in their lives that caused them to decide, I'm just going to go up and shoot 12 people.
Have you, Lew? Three things went across my mind. One is, I'm going to come back to this question about rehabilitation.
Right.
And I'm also going to come back to this whole piece about premeditation. Premeditation. What I want to ask you is something you just said, very key. You mentioned agenda. Why do I keep hearing this word agenda? Is it just something wrong with what should be at the top? What's more important, the priority? Because we really know, as far as an agenda, if we sat in the room with J.B. Pritzker or sat in the room with Mr. Ronner, if we sat in the room with any of them, Mr. Kennedy, millionaires, billionaires, and we said, we want 500 gas stations. We want so much farmland. We want all kind of things that will give us an economic engine, but the word agenda seems to be thrown around. And you said it like you said it, it just, a light came, and that is, we serving somebody else's agenda, which keeps them enriched from misery, from crime, and from people getting in trouble.
The answer to that is, there's a word that we have to understand. When I say agenda, I really mean, what is your social philosophy? What do you believe in? What have you crystallized in your mind, in your behavior, in your actions? What have you internalized to make you believe that certain things have to happen if the world is going to be fair? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me say that one more time. Yeah. What is it, for those of you who are listening, what have you internalized in your life that makes you believe that you should have ideas about what would make the world fair? Now, when I say social philosophy, Bobby Wright, used to talk about social philosophy.
Yeah. Very powerful, man.
What is it that you believe in that you can go into a room with other people who have a concern about developing themselves and doing the right thing in the universe. When you get into the room, you must be able to say, first of all, not what the political agenda is, but what is it, are the principles that I have internalized that tells me I have integrity as a person? And how do we translate that in coming up with policy positions, ideas, and thoughts in making the world better? So when I go to the politician, I'm not saying we set up in a meeting on a Friday night and had an agenda. We set up and understood the world based on the integrity of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And what you see we are bringing to you about drugs and about how to handle crime and how to handle crime malefactors, people who commit crime, right? We're bringing that to you from a perspective of a universal understanding of if everything was fair in the world, these are the things you ought to be doing.
And don't they know, as you say, it's like a setup. It's a game.
It's a game.
Beyond monopoly.
Uh-huh.
I'm so thankful that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad mentioned Adam Clayton Powell.
Because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had a social philosophy, brother. You didn't walk into the Nation of Islam and say, Mr. Muhammad, let's discuss what we ought to be talking about. Wait a minute now.
Right.
When you walked in there, you saw the flag.
That's right.
Hey, you saw the symbols.
That's right.
And then you had a chance to read
a program.
A program.
Master program.
Based on the history of the universe and world.
And brothers coming out of the what? Prison system.
Right.
Down and out. Sisters coming out of the prison system. Not only prison, diet. Not only diet, but relationships. Not only relationship, but true education and a sound economic program to keep them from not going back to the prison, not going back, period.
I'm not going to dwell a lot on this because I want to get to something else tonight. First of all, he said, here's how to eat to live.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You ought to know that, right?
Yeah.
If you want to survive,
exactly.
Don't eat the poor, right?
Is that love?
Hey,
is that love? Is that love?
And then he said, this is how you ought to treat your brothers and sisters and your children in your
love
house.
Again.
Wait a minute. That's a philosophy. And if you don't agree with this, you can't come in no matter what. You won't even
Lew, I've never heard of no organization on the whole entire planet universe, not one, that calls the women ma'am and the men sir. Because yes, sir. No, ma'am. Now, these are principles that we learn in the South. We learn these in the household. Yes, sir. No, ma'am. No, thank you. Thank you. Respect.
But
respect yourself. Love your own. Be yourself.
A social religious philosophy was already there. And it was based on learned experience and learned experience about the development of the what? World. So what do I look like? What do I look like going into a meeting? See, the people we going in to ask to change the criminal justice system, change the law, they have a philosophy. It's called white supremacy. They know when they come into the room that there are limits and bounds of where they're going to go with you. The only question is tactically, how can we accommodate you at that moment to get you out of their face so they can continue to do with you what they're doing anyway. You come in, you got, for the lack of a better word, an agenda without a social philosophy. They got a social philosophy and an agenda. Is there any imbalance in that?
Hey, Lew, I'm thinking you making me laugh, and Minister Michael gonna crack up. You deal with a cat like Minister Mike and others, not just him.
Right.
They don't go to Burger King or McDonald's. These cats that went and had a bowl of bean soup.
Right.
They didn't say, I'm not going to eat today nor tomorrow.
That's right.
I'm going to eat 3 days from now. How do you deal with a mind like that? But see, that's what make that man powerful.
Now, But
a philosophy.
But the reason why Brother Mike does that is because of a social philosophy. It was taught that in the universe, in order to be who you are, these are the principles that you have to abide by. These are the things that you have to do. So when he goes into, and you go into relationships with people who are diametrically opposed to everything we stand for, but they're going to say to you when you come into the room, "Oh, Brother Mike, you don't know how much I miss you." And you sit down and you say, "This is what I need." And they'll say, "Well, we can give you some of that." And when you leave the meeting feeling that you've accomplished something, he's in the room saying, "Man, did I nigger whoop them right there?"
Wow.
Because that's where you ain't even out the door. And him and his crowd are laughing because they're already devising a plan to take away from you what you just asked them to give, and they promised it to you. Wait a minute, what kind of person? So in the part of the social philosophy, you have to understand, right, wickedness and the evil mind of your enemy.
And so do we get in the way with that thinking that you had just articulated, with that kind of discipline,
right,
that kind of wisdom,
right,
that interferes with the bad men, that interferes with the hustlers, that interferes with those who are out front faking, pretending, misdirecting our people like they are leaders, like they are
This goes back to what I started out on the first show I did. I said, you know, we're going to have to understand a lot of these brothers that we're critical of, not because they ain't wrong. They are. Not because they ain't doing wrong. They are.
Yes,
if you out there selling dope and encouraging your brothers and your sisters to kill and murder and maim each other, sir, I'm not giving no succulence to that.
Are you equal to, say that again, and I just want you to say that again. I just want to let the other people know what equals that.
If you are out there not aiding and abetting, but participating in the genocide of your own people, then we cannot support that.
And if you in the back room and you a preacher, or you or any other, whatever title you have, and you cutting deals for yourself, you are no different than what Brother Attorney Lew just described. You are equally scandalous, but because you too are taking advantage of the poor.
But what I said, the second part of what I said was, yeah, that guy in the back room with the collar.
Or no collar.
Or with the hand sign, you know.
Yeah.
And doing all that. Yeah, all of that we have to deal with. But before we deal with it, we have a revolutionary responsibility to sit down and talk philosophy and social philosophy to make them understand the waywardness of their behavior. We then have to give them a chance not to go and barter themselves for us. Excuse me. We have to give them a chance to recognize what they're not doing and do it right.
Yeah.
Right.
Get your water, Lou.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, I agree. We do have to get into those rooms and individually, and that's one of the platform of the new Black leadership is to get into the room individually, with small groups, large groups, any groups, with every single individual that claim to speak for us, that claim to be brokering for us, that claim to be representing us. We made it a big deal that we understand that step is necessary.
Let me give you
but how long do you give these cats that once you invite them in and they still out here misguiding, misdirecting, and misleading our people for just some crumbs off the slave master table?
All right, let me answer that, because that's the part in part one I didn't get a chance to finish.
Yes, sir.
Because we talked about it after the show.
Or the master's table.
Well, we can do what we have to do. we should give brothers who should be automatically aligned with us a chance and to explain to them what concerns are and debate and go through that. But there'll come a time when some people are going to say, I'm not ever coming your way. That's what you're asking me. You're saying, what happens to the brother if he continues to sell the dope? He continues to pimp our young women. He continues to sell drugs to 8 and 9 and 10-year-olds and sell drugs in our community. What happens when he makes a decision?
He continues to have deals.
Absolutely.
In the back room.
So what happens when all of that happens? Then you have to make a decision that I gave him a choice. And he understood it, I am sure. And if he chooses to continue in the path of unrighteousness to the detriment of the survival of his people, then we deal with him like we deal with any other enemy.
Whoever is viewing this via Facebook, YouTube, through the internet, please share this and make sure you rewind what Brother Lew just said. Give this to, I ain't calling no names, but you all know who should get a copy of that. Because technology, let's take advantage of technology. They can't say they did not know.
See, give
them that sound bite right there, because you are echoing what the new black leadership has been saying.
If you allow them to continue to do it, when you are confident that they know better, then at that point you are aiding and abetting the genocide. You are actually what do you call folk? An enabler. Yeah. You know, you just said that this person is doing all this wrong, and I've sat with my brother and we've discussed all of this, and they understand where they should have went left and they went right, and now he continues or she continues to do it. If I continue to sponsor them in doing it, then what? I got a problem.
Hey, I really, Mike, I wish I had the remedy. Only Mike, I can't say only Mike, but Mike used a word that I've used called narcissistic.
Narcissistic.
Yes, narcissistic to the degree that can they be helped?
The answer is yes, no, and maybe no. And like, let me tell you why I said it like that.
Hey, look up the word narcissistic right away.
Let me tell you what Mike is right on that.
That is the #1 disease of many of these egotistical, out of control, despicable, deplorable clowns that are misdirecting our people, and they know better.
Well, at the end of the day, let me give you another point. I'm glad, because we're getting back to where we were. You know,
Lord, have mercy.
I didn't get a chance to say. You see, at the end of the day, if our people know, where it is, and they know that this is wrong, and that, well, let me give you a concrete example. I once represented a dope dealer, and he was a gang leader in Chicago on West Side. And part of what he did was sell dope. So one day I asked him, I said, man, y'all selling dope to young kids, because I know the streets the way y'all own, and some of these kids are 10, 11, 12 years old. And he said, hey, well, boom, boom, boom. So I said, I also knew that he had a son, and his son was about 5 years old. I said, what if one of your guys went to your son and attempted to sell him the crack that you selling to the other children? What would you do? You know what his narcissistic answer was? I'd kill him. Well, wait a minute, bro. You selling dope to everybody's children. All right? You selling dope to women, and you out there got then children pimping women. You would kill somebody if they did it with your child, but you have no compunction, no contrition about selling it. Hey, at the end of the day, when you get that kind of personality, if they never come around to realize that really You live in two pursuits, and you're doing harm. No, we're going to have to address that. We're going to have to address it, but I am an advocate of let's sit down. I mean, it really requires more than just a conversation or one meeting or two meetings.
It's so much, man. I'm glad you said that.
And let me
because
give you the
it's so
last part
much.
of it, while I got it tonight. And the last part of it is, and I believe this, we don't know what point some of the worst folk in the world, I have known some folk that, I mean, they weren't good at all.
Damn.
But you don't know when
Not good at
a
all.
person may pick up and decide that they want to be right. Sometimes that's much later in what?
In life.
In life. They may have gone through 30 years and they got dead bodies everywhere. Dope, addicts everywhere that they contributed and helped out. But one day, what happens when that person stands up in the synagogue or stands up in the mosque or stands up in the church and says, I was wrong and I'm a different person. And for the remainder of my days, I am going to teach and preach this. And if I can help one of you not be what I was, what if he, no, let me give you the other paradox. And then what if he walks out the pulpit and drop dead or walks out in the mosque the same day? Do we say we're not going to forgive him? Or do we say at this point, if he really came to that point and understood that it was worthy of him,
That's a divine
and so that a
principle
person, that's right. Hey, it's the Jesus principle.
Yeah,
remember there were three people on the cross, and Jesus was in the middle. One dude on the cross, one young man on the cross said, hey man, you ain't nobody, you ought to save yourself. He ridiculed Jesus. Other guy on the cross said, man, I'm paraphrasing, I believe in who you are. And I'm sorry. Remember, they wouldn't be on that cross if they had not committed a serious offense, because that was the death penalty. Jesus on the cross was given the death penalty. Jesus turns to the brother that says, I will accept you right now, and I'm on my way out of the world. And he said, for you'll be with me for what? Forever.
Eternal.
So he said, even out of everything that you did that led you to be up here with me, you now have come and made recompense with me. And I forgive you in the last hours of your life.
That's why I said, Reverend. I said that coming on the show, Reverend.
No, but I'm saying so.
But that's a principle, Lew, that I love. And we cannot at all ignore that and at all just say, hey, man, people can't be redeemed. Folks can't change. But going into these rooms that you mentioned with these folks, reminding them of their humanity. I mean, we at a real crossroad in the Black community right now. I mean, it's political season. You mentioned judges. We don't know half of them. Man. We got people running for office. Are they running for a check? They running for a job? Or they running to be a servant?
Well, I was telling Brother Mike as I was coming in, I don't know most of them. I know some.
And you're an attorney. You don't know them.
But let me say this.
Damn, we sure don't know them.
And here's a problem. They're running because when we don't know, because they've never come before us. They want to ask for our vote.
All of them.
We don't know. We don't know what they stand for. We don't know who they stand with. We don't know what's in their background.
I've never seen nobody talking about how much justice. If you go to their courtroom.
That's right. We vote. And when we elect them, we don't go to the courtroom and see what they're doing to us. We don't know how much time and how many folks. They may be sending away more of us than the white judge right next to him.
I felt so bad one time, bro. I was at a courtroom And this was just for speeding tickets, some stuff, whatever. Not some minor. But when they came in, what did they this for? Like, all rise, crazy little sheriff or whatever you call him inside there, wanted us to get up. We get up and pay respect to this man that's not giving justice in some cases to the people. What is that about?
Well, that's not to say. I mean, that's just formality. That's part of tradition. But I want to get
Why?
into because in every system you institutionalize tradition to make it sacrosanct. You believe in what you think is sacred, and what you don't respect. There's some places you'll go, you ain't gonna get up for nobody. And there are other places you're gonna go, they say you got to get up, and you're gonna say, well, why? And then why is because this is the court. Well, what does that mean? Well, this means that you got, because it institutionalizes in the process.
That's why
tradition.
That's why I love the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan, because before I met him, I'm just a little kid. I would not get up for the national anthem. Nobody taught me this. What I was basing it on was the condition of my people. And I'm like, man, that song is a hypocritical song. But when I heard him say, brother, you should always stand.
Right.
You don't have to put your hand on your chest, and you don't have to sing the song, but you respect the flag or the anthem of other people. And I'm saying that to say, as a people, we've lost respect for ourselves.
Yeah, let me get to
versus a flag.
Before the time runs on me this time.
Yeah, man, is it running again?
Yeah, let me get to this part.
That's wrong. We just started.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. I better say what I gotta say, because we're gonna be out of here now. Look,
can we get some extra time, Earl?
Hey, now, let me say this. You know, when you started off, I think I know what you were talking about. I guess I'm the right person to have on here.
Yeah.
To answer that. Because the brother, meaning Louis Farrakhan, brother, I've been with him now for 42 years. And you don't know what I went through in the first 20 years of people putting pressure on me professionally and personally about renouncing my brother or getting away from him, or folks saying you can't get this job. There are many jobs I never got. There are many places I could have gone in the world successfully, according to some people, that never were available to me. Let me tell you something. At some point, every individual, I've started by saying you have to have your integrity.
Yes, sir.
When you come into the room and you develop your philosophy, part of that philosophy is the integrity of who you are. And that determines how you behave and how you treat other folk.
That's right.
There are people, man, I've been with, particularly our brother Farrakhan. I've been with him now for 42 years.
Easy.
Brother. 42, going on 43 years. Let me tell you something. I have watched people, and I have watched him. See, I was in the mosque back in when that Jewish is when people accuse him of praising Hitler, and the word came out that Judaism was a gutter religion. Brother Greg, I was on the front row.
I was on the second row.
That happened in the Final Call building.
I was right there on post.
I know what he said, and he didn't say
gutter,
and he never said it. And it was taken totally out of context.
Purposely.
And then I saw the next day.
Purposely.
Folk, it go worldwide and say, you need to denounce him, and because they didn't side clip out of context what he said.
And they liken him with a stupid butt to Hitler. They said, and the minister used, he was speaking on a level and defining. He said, just because something is great don't mean it's good. And he said Alexander the Great, the Great Depression. And so when he said Hitler was great, they knew what he was saying.
The reason why I mentioned that, you know, so many of my brothers over the years,
Hitler was wicked.
So many of my brothers over the years have been called upon to renounce my brother. Most of them really didn't know what they were doing, and they were functioning off of misinformation. But they came to believe the enemies of my brother who brought it to them, who said, you know what? If you want to be in my house or get my money, you got to what? You got to go out and renounce and talk about and denounce him. That's the question of integrity. And I invite every man and woman, if I'm going to come to your house and eat your food, and if you bring your family to my house and I bring my family to your house, and if you're kind to me and provide for me and help me when I'm in need and I can help you, then all of a sudden overnight, somebody that I don't even know, don't even live in my neighborhood, come to me and tell me, Greg is a bad person. If you want to stay on this side, you're going to have to what?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. I know that was the person that helped feed me when I was hungry.
That's Jesus.
Helped nourish me when I was what?
Jesus.
When I was reaching out.
That's right.
And that was the person who spent time with me when I needed a what? A friend. Now, who is it that you talking about you want me to renounce? That guy? Or who are you? You've never been to my house. You don't even really know my full name. And you don't know who I am. I'm not going to renounce anybody for somebody else that I don't even what? Know. And even if I knew them, I know the truth of what God has put in my brother.
Why is it so important too?
It's important to me.
No. Why is it so important to those individuals? What is it that they gain to get people to repudiate, to denounce Minister Farrakhan? What's the benefit?
Because they pay the money.
And what else?
At the end of the day, if I'm paying the money and I'm saying you've been coming to me, asking me all these years, begging me, you ain't going to your own community. They ain't giving you no money. I'm the one giving you the money. So when I tell you that you do it or you don't do it, I can bring the consequence. You can bring the anger, but if you ain't financing nobody, if you ain't taking care of nobody, if you run into your enemy and asking him to support you and protect you and finance you, when he comes and says, bruh, this is quid pro what? Quid. You ain't getting nothing without bringing what? Something. And so when the test is put to you, you got a decision to make.
So what do you call these kind of individuals? How long would it take them to come into the knowledge that you are? You mentioned philosophy. In the cases of those that we know have recently, and these people 80 years old, some of them, the minister 85, but these cowards that have, unwisely, I gotta call them cowards.
And I wouldn't call them cowards. You
would.
I'm saying, you know what?
I think, Danny, I'm about to call his name. I think you don't think they cowards?
No, I don't think they're cowards. I think that
they scared.
Of course they are.
Of what?
Huh? They're scared of what I just told you. You asked me what would make a man scared.
But they getting the check. So what can they do to him?
To who?
I ain't calling no names. See, I was smart. But what can they do to those individuals at this stage in their life for them to say, hey man, what about the good works, the only good works that I know this man does? Because you was talking about Jesus earlier.
Well, let me tell you something.
Must be walking in his footsteps.
Hey, that's the challenge. The very man, that's the challenge, Greg. The question of it is, how do we then get in a room with our brothers and sisters who
they don't want to get in a room with me?
I know. No,
they better get in a room with y'all.
Hey, the question becomes, that has to be a topic of what? Discussion. How do we fortify?
They need to be chased out of rooms now.
No. What you asked me is how do we?
Okay, we got to wrap this up.
How do we fortify them?
You got it in though.
How do we fortify it? And that's part 4.
Lew got it in. 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
We got 5 minutes.
Man, here I go.
And I'm gonna give you 4. I'll take 1 to close it out. You got 4, attorney.
No,
go ahead, because really the people viewing this is a big deal for us. Not the subject of just the minister, but the disunity, the disorganization, the sellouts, the fact that you weaken the movement when you fake like you representing us and you're a punk.
Well, let me say this. I'll look at it. At the end of the day, as I told you when I started, there's some
Get to the mic.
There are some folk, right, that we can deal with and we can wrestle with and have these discussions and discuss our philosophies and our theories with them and say, this is where we are, this is what makes us up. And then there are some folk that ain't gonna ever. And so then the question becomes, and I think the Minister Farrakhan has been brilliant at this, he has the ability to even understand a brother that comes off that way.
The grace period, I think, is up, though.
Oh, well, but he has the ability to understand that. Our question becomes ultimately, how do we handle that in terms of developing better relationships or bad relationships, or staying away from that at all? Or does that feed into other kinds of problems?
Yeah, because this is really the time of the manifestation of defects. And what we're seeing, unfortunately, some of these folks that we have tried our very best to work with, they are no good. And they've proven themselves to be just that.
Well, then let's end the program on this. Assuming everything that you say is true, then at what point can they ever redeem themselves?
New Black leadership. That's why we call this the New Black Leadership.
All right.
Because it's time to replace that's in the way of our progress.
I believe that time is going to come.
It's here.
I don't know.
Oh my God, how long can we wait? Not on them.
Doc, I've been around. This is my 70s.
Not Leon, not Jesse,
I've been
not Danny. No, they done.
I've been around 70 years.
Done.
And it ain't came yet. And so, but it's still a fight. It's a protracted struggle. It ain't gonna end tomorrow, Greg.
Oh
you
and
I probably won't live to see a lot of what we're saying now. We won't see the manifestations of what we really know.
Can I tell you this? And we got to go off there.
Right.
I was born to see Black people free. And I'm saying this to say that I don't know when that's going to be, but we at the door of some major changes, bro, because the people are angry right now.
But we
at
were
people
born,
selling us out for crumbs, man.
But we were born
just to be in the damn room.
You and I were born to fight.
Yeah, now
God ain't gave us the blessing as the women.
I'm this nice motivational speaker, man.
Right.
That just happened to stop at the final call.
Yeah.
And it changed my perspective.
Big challenge, man. Yeah, big challenge. But let's keep talking about it. Yeah.
Man, Brother Lew, you make the time go by too fast.
And it's
brother.
you, man. Yeah.
Earl Winfrey, the best producer on. Thank you, Brother Earl. He gave us a couple of extra minutes, and always thankful for our founder of the New Black Leadership, Minister Mike, and all of our founding members of the New Black Leadership. And thank you all for tuning in to the New Black Leadership Coalition and everybody's attorney. I can't claim it, but our attorney. All right. The one and only Brother Lewis Meyers.
Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir. Brother Lew Meyers.